What's going on, guys? Sal here. I'm back again. I'm going to be breaking down this Sunday night Showdown captain slate on Draftkings between the Eagles and the Cowboys. We have a divisional matchup in Philadelphia. I'm going to be breaking that down. Before I get into that, I want to just quickly touch on that game last night. And basically last night, all the dudes scored, right? And the guy who won the whole thing, he won $250K in the Thursday night slate between the Panthers and the Steelers. Won the whole thing because he played the Steelers' third-string running back, who technically is the fourth string if you count Le'Veon Bell still being in that backfield. James Conner was like a little banged up here and there. They got up big, so they played. They didn't play Stephen Wrigley, who was on the depth chart as a number 2. They played Samuel, the rookie. The guy ended up getting, I don't know, he got some rushing work, maybe like 40 rushing yards, I don't know. But he caught a 10-yard screen pass, and that set this guy apart. He won by like 8, which is pretty rare to do on these slates. I mean, win the whole thing and win by 8. But that guy, that player, Samuel, was probably like $200, and nobody played him at all, and especially not in that lineup build. Guy made $250K, which is nuts. I don't know how many lineups he submitted. I submitted 10. I only have one lineup that had McCaffrey and Big Ben, so I forfeited a lot of those. I was heavy on James Washington. The guy was 15% owned, which was just way more than I thought. Heavy on him. In those 10 lineups, probably had him in like 6 or 7. Obviously, that didn't work out. If it does work out, though, obviously make some money back. But not a great night for the Showdown slate, but I just went high risk, high reward. Before we get into this, again, if you guys can just hit that like button right now. Trying to get to 500 subscribers by Monday afternoon's first look video. I think we're like 130 away from that as I'm like recording this right now, which is a lot. But again, if you guys are watching, if you could just hit that subscribe button, greatly appreciate. Hit my goal, break through the ceiling on that goal. Hit that like button. And if you have any questions, you can comment below. Nobody had Big Ben. I had on the video, my last couple videos, if you commented a guy, I would give you the Millie Maker when we hit 500 subscribers. Nobody had Big Ben being the highest scoring. Instead of going to the next highest scoring player, which I don't think anybody had McCaffrey either, I'm just going to say that let me know in the main slate who you guys think is going to score the most points. You could drop that in this video. You could drop it in the first look. Whatever video you're basically watching, I would say this one since I'm saying it in this one. But just let me know in the main slate who you think will score the most points, and you can get entered for a drawing for the Millie Maker ticket once I hit 500 subs. But let's finally get into this video. We got the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. So it's going to be a little bit of a hard game for Dallas coming into Philadelphia, rival division game. Always tough games, especially once it gets cold into those colder months. We're now in November. So let's see what this slate looks like. We have Carson Wentz being the most expensive, so that's interesting. Again, we have the quarterbacks, both of them in the top 4. That's what we're used to seeing the quarterbacks up there. And then the best skilled position player, right? So for the Cowboys, we have Zeke, and for the Eagles, we have Zach Ertz, most consistent tight end, probably in the league, even above Kelsey. Kelsey plays in the best offense, but he's just the most consistent because he gets consistent looks. I mean, look at his double-digit targets in every week but one, and one of those he had 9 targets. He's catching the ball literally every single week, at least 5 catches every week, except once where he had 4 and it still had a touchdown. Let's see, he either has double-digit targets or a touchdown in every single game this year, right? Yeah, so I mean, that's an easy way to break it down. Zach Ertz is an absolute monster. You want him in your lineups if you can get him there. And just the way that I break down the Showdown slates, if you guys, this is your first time watching me, or even if you've watched me in the past to reinforce it, I like to look into just different strategies to take home the whole thing, right? And obviously I'm going high risk, high reward, so I'm probably not going to win as much money as often as if I just played these tournaments and I threw all the best players in there that are all going to be 50% owned, and if I hit something, I'll split it with like 1,000 people, and yeah, it's nice to actually win like $1,000 that way, or whatever it breaks down to. But yeah, I kind of want to win the whole thing if I'm going to be putting in such low money. And if it's so hard to hit one of these, obviously, like last night, a guy hit it. He was the only one who took it home. The Thursday before that, a guy hit it, only one to take it home. So I think that if you change up your lineups and you play players that nobody's playing, that's why I played a lot of James Washington last night, sometimes in the captain spot, you have a better shot at taking home a lot more money. If something happens, you get a good break your way, which we've seen people getting those good breaks all season long. Not as often as the people who are splitting the money, because obviously, I mean, the good players are going to do well more than these punt plays like Samuel last night. But I always look for those value, those sneaky plays like that. I thought Curtis Samuel was kind of a play like that, but I didn't end up playing him. The other Samuel I didn't even think of. I didn't even know who he was on the Steelers, but apparently somebody did. So I like to play some of these higher players. We have Golden Tate, which is interesting at 11.7. A lot of guys, just like that last slate, in this expensive price range. This is for captain, right? So maybe not. Yeah, so last night, I mean, we had like 4 guys in the 5 figures. There's 5 guys for that game in Pittsburgh between the Steelers and the Panthers. This one, not as much. Let's see, though, what we can build, because there is still a ton of talent on this game. So you basically have the top tier is going to be like these three guys right here with Elliott, maybe Dak, and then it drops down into these receivers right here. These three receivers probably going to be where people are going to struggle. Which receivers to fit into your lineup? Do you go 2 of them? Can you fit even all of them in there? Does that make sense to go all of them? We don't know what Golden Tate's going to look like in this lineup yet. Zach Ertz is obviously the main man out there, but Alshon Jeffrey's also getting a ton of work, and we could look at that just based on what he's been doing out there. I mean, 8, 12, 10. Jacksonville, not so much, but that was just a weird game out in London or the UK. They're coming off the bye. I think that there's a stat that I saw that the teams coming off the bye betting wise, so that means Jacksonville and that means Philadelphia coming off the bye in London. They're like a ridiculous amount of spread covers. Like they've only lost like 3 times out of like 20 games or something, and like they're covering the spread like 16 out of 20 times. It's something nuts like that. So obviously, if we want to go through that and look at the past results, which makes sense, like you went to London, so you had an extra day, and then you have the whole bye, so it's like an extended bye almost. It's like playing on a Thursday night than having a bye. So it's a rare situation. So when we look at that, maybe we take that for granted and we say, let's do a game flow around the Eagles winning this game. Semi-decent total on this game, but let's do a game flow around the Eagles winning this game and see what that is. Do we want to say that they're going to be close? I'd like to do these game flow theories. But let's start to build a lineup. So if I say the Eagles are going to win this game, and it's going to be a close divisional matchup, right? It's going to be a ground and pound type game, decent mid-40s points. It's going to be like your average game. What do we need to happen in that game? Well, I think we need Zeke in our lineup because he just continues to get all the work. Even in a bad game last week, he still had 15 points. He's going to get into the end zone. Hasn't been there in 2 weeks. I think he's going to get into the end zone probably in this game. Amari Cooper against a bad secondary. So, again, the Eagles have a bad secondary. Dallas is pretty good overall all around on defense. I mean, they got exposed a little bit by Mariota, which is weird to say, but a lot of that was just short fields. So, let's see. Do we want Carson Wentz in this lineup against Dallas? I might shy away from that. I might just go... You can go here, Zach Ertz. You can go. Who else would you want? I mean, now you have Golden Tate, and he's going to take work away from Aguilar. So I don't really know if I want to touch that. The Eagles running back's a mess. This kind of seems like a sloppy slate. Just a lot of guys that can do damage, which is good because you get a lot more variance. You have a better chance of winning, but also you have a better chance of winning if your lineup hits. But it's harder to win because there's so many guys that are actually going to be in play here. Kickers and defenses. This could be a kicker game. Could be a defense game if you want to go. Something like that. I usually avoid those unless I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair, which this very well could be because it's a divisional matchup. Divisional matchups for quarterbacks aren't great the second time they play. Every time that the quarterbacks play the second time, there's trends. I use Fantasy Labs. I read the book by Jonathan Bales. I can post that below. Second time for divisional matchups, quarterbacks take a huge hit. They just know how to play them better. And also wide receivers take a huge hit. Running backs not as much, but the whole offense is basically take a huge hit. They're usually lower scoring. Usually avoid quarterbacks and wide receivers. I believe this is their first time that Dallas and Philadelphia are playing though, so I wouldn't put too much into that right now. So let's try and construct a lineup. So we have Zeke and Ertz, right? I think those are going to be 2 of the most owned players, the best basically skilled position player for each team. Let's say we go with Dak then. And I played a lot of Beasley in the captain spot, and that killed me, and I think it did a lot of people, so I think a lot of people are going to come off of him. And, I mean, Amari Cooper's out there. You'd think Beasley's going to get some more work. How many times did Dak throw in that game? Let's see. Dak threw 31 times, which is a decent amount for Dak. Beasley only saw, 4 targets, and I think a lot of them were late in the game. Cooper saw a decent amount of targets. They peppered him in the red zone. I think he had 4 red zone targets, converted one of them, almost had 2 of them. 8 targets, 5 yards, 58. I mean, that's a good game for Cooper, right? Cooper's this guy who usually either busts right here, like you can see here, busts, or he blows up, right? He never has an in-between game. He either busts or blows up. Nice to see him have like a consistent in-between game. Maybe that could end up being his floor with 8 targets on a 5-catch, 50-yard game. Maybe that could be his floor instead of him getting you 1 point. I don't hate Amari Cooper in this matchup. I think he has a very good matchup, actually. He's somebody that I want to get into these lineups. I just don't think we can afford him at 2,500. We could if we played Gallup or the Cowboys D. I don't think I want to go that many skilled position players on Dallas, but we could do that, right? Like this would be a situation where you have literally 3 pass catchers for Dallas, their quarterback and their running back. You have their entire offense. So this is me saying the Eagles aren't going to win. Like it's going to be an onslaught by Dallas, like it was the Steelers last night. And if the Cowboys did blow them out somehow in this game, this might be a lineup that hits, right? The Ertz connection would be throwing the ball. Zeke would be getting the ball late. You'd hope that one of these guys was just getting all the work early on, or they split up 3 touchdowns from Dak, whatever it was. It's a very rare situation, but that's what it has to be to take home these slates, right? I mean, we're not just doing this. So, I mean, I could do like a cash game lineup for you, like a cash game build, and in cash game, just get your highest projected player into that captain spot. I haven't looked at any projections for this game. The Eagles have a good front, so I would imagine it's going to be like Wentz or Ertz, maybe Dak. I don't think it would be Dak over Wentz, but let's see. Now you have 6,100 to spend, and we can go down. We can go bang. We can honestly do double kicker if you're going to do cash, and you can come up here and you can get some value plays. It's even tough in cash at this point. You have to go Beasley, 8,100, Golden Tate, and then you get Amari. So a lineup like that. So you can come back with a couple of Cowboys wide receivers. You get the pair with Golden Tate. Maybe he does something. Obviously not a great lineup, but right here you're getting basically like a floor of 5 points. I mean, maybe a floor of like 3 points, but probably an average of like 5 to 7 points from these kickers, each of them in this game, that gets you your highest projected, if it is your highest median projected player, into the captain spot. If we went with a higher, because I mean he's 5K more than some of these other guys. If you went with Dak in this spot, then obviously you can afford up to some other positions. So I actually like this a little bit better. You go Dak, and then you get Ertz over somebody like Beasley, which I like a lot more. You still get Amari Cooper, so you get his #1 receiver, and then you get basically possibly the top 2 targets, depending on how Golden Tate flows into this offense. Will he be looked at more than Alshon Jeffrey, or does he just not even get looked at over Nelson Aguilar? That could be a situation too. Get both the kickers in there. 800, you can come up off a kicker. This is more of like a cash game build, right? You're being a little bit safer now. You can go Smallwood. And even these cash game lineups look like tournament lineups, right? I mean, this is definitely a lineup that you could play in the tournament. It's nothing completely safe. I'd probably say kickers are the safer way to go, because you know you're going to get at least probably 5 points, upwards of 15 from them. Tournament-wise, I really don't know. I mean, there's always a way that there's a lot of people are going to want to play Golden Tate because he's new. Like a lot of people played Amari Cooper last week, and also because it's a 1-game slate, so any player with somewhat upside is going to be like 40-30% owned at minimum. What about Nelson Aguilar? Like, maybe people just forget all about Nelson Aguilar, who's had a decent season, right? He's getting consistent targets in an offense that likes to throw the ball. What if you put him in the captain spot? Everybody thinks Golden Tate's going to go off, and you just said, I'm going to ignore Golden Tate in this situation. Let's see what you can do there. You can get, I really like Amari. Like, I just love Amari's matchup in that secondary. I think Michael Gallup was super cheap, right? I think Gallup all the way down here is very cheap. He still had 6 targets this past week. They were throwing the ball a decent amount more. Maybe that opens up more space from him. Yes, he's splitting snaps. And I didn't look at the snaps count. We could look at that with Allen Hurns, who's also very cheap. Allen Hurns only had 1 catch, 23 yards, right? He went for a touchdown. But Gallup's the young guy. He's the rookie. They like Gallup out there. I think this is going to open up 2 wide receiver sets more for Gallup. 2,200, I like Gallup a lot. And he might be that punt play that I put into my captain spot, right, that I did with James Washington. It's an absolute, basically, like, you're gambling at that point, right? I mean, DraftKings, on these 1-game slates, if you're playing tournaments, you're basically gambling. Like, you can put some skill into it, but there's just so little, there's so much variance in these plays that you don't know what's going to happen on a 1-game slate. And so little ways to go. So let's say you go Gallup at the captain spot, probably the cheapest viable captain. I don't know what we have all the way down here. All these guys are on IR, so nobody you can touch there. I played Schultz the other day. Awful. Like, he had, 3 targets, and I thought he was going to start at tight end. He was in the red zone on some tight end snaps. Didn't even see a target. That just hurts. Jarwin, the same deal. I think he caught like 2 balls. Yeah, not much there. 3 points. Maybe that helps you out if you played him. Doesn't look like Tavon Austin is going to play. He probably won some people the slates. I think like week 2 or whenever he played the Giants, he had that long touchdown. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really down here, right? I think nothing below 2K that's viable. I don't think Jordan Matthews is viable at all anymore. You see, he had his best game in his last time out there, but now you have Golden Tate there. But again, this could be a situation where it's like, will Golden Tate play a lot? And also, I don't think, does Golden Tate take the slot from like Jordan Matthews? Has he been playing in the slot? I think that's more of an Aguilar spot, but they have another receiver out there. Somebody's going to have to get bit, and I think it's going to be Golden Tate over Aguilar. Nobody I really like down here. I know Josh Adams started to get some more work in that last game. That's very interesting to see. He had 9 carries for 61 yards. He ran the ball very well, but it's basically a 3-headed backfield now out there. 3,200, I don't hate that. Sproles shouldn't play. But yeah, I think Michael Gallup's probably the best cheap play. Allen Hurns maybe if you want to differentiate yourself even more. But let's go Michael Gallup. Let's do a little bit of a Cowboys stack now. So let's get Dak in there against a bad D, and then we can get even Amari in there. So now we have our Cowboys stack. We want to bring it back. We have 9,700 to spend. You have a ton of money to spend. If we want to avoid Wentz, I don't think we want to avoid Wentz. Can we get both guys and Ertz in there? Because that'd be nuts. 5,500, you could do it, right? We just missed getting up in this range. I'd much rather have Beasley or Aguilar. Smallwood's just the guy who's touching the ball like, 5 times a game? I mean, he had 10 touches, 14 because he got in the end zone. You're basically throwing a dart at this point twice, though, if you go Smallwood, which, again, is the way that you probably have to win these things. You have to be a little bit risky. You have to embrace risk in these situations. You go Smallwood, you have $500 left. A strategy that I talked about last time for the Thursday night slate was I like to leave money on the table in these slates, right? It's a way to differentiate yourself. Obviously, don't leave money on the table if you're ditching out on some bigger names and you're only putting one lineup in. If you're putting multiple lineups in, it's okay to leave money on the table and do something like this. Like, go down to Josh Adams, leave $2,100 on the table, because not a lot of people are going to want to leave that much money on the table. And the ones that do probably don't have Gallup in their captain spot, and they don't have Josh Adams in their flex, right? I'd like to see what the reports are on Josh Adams. Will he be playing more? Will he get in that backfield more? Will he become like a goal line back? Because then this is a kind of viable lineup, right? I mean, you have the stud quarterback, the quarterback on each team, and you have their top wide receiver. Then you have the number 2 receiver, and then you have just basically a punt play here. I don't think Gallup's a total punt play because he's getting consistent targets, and now, especially with Amari out there, it seems like this should increase or stay about the same. He should have a floor of about 5 to 6 targets. So I like that. I mean, obviously, if you want to play it a little bit safer, you can go Jake Elliott, an incredible kicker. Both kickers in this game are pretty good, so I don't hate going both kickers, but I think there's going to be too many points to actually want to do that. Not enough field goals. Maurer's been pretty slow, so maybe not a lot of people will play him. Even then, you have $1,500 on the table, so I don't hate that as well. So this is just a lineup idea if you want to go cheaper. Let's see, who else should we build? Who should we build a lineup with here? Let's see if we build a lineup with, like I said, quarterbacks. I only like to put a quarterback in the captain spot, and that bit me in the butt last night because Big Ben, not a running quarterback. But if a quarterback's going to go for over 300 yards and 5 tutties, only have 3 incompletions, odds are he'll be a guy who balls out if his wide receiver doesn't catch 2 touchdowns, right? He split up all of his touchdowns. It was pretty nuts. The third string running back, both tight ends, Antonio Brown and Juju. If a quarterback throws 5 touchdowns, majority of the time it's not going to be like that. If Antonio Brown or Juju catches another touchdown, probably a team that has them in the captain spot splitting all the money, right? So I think it was very rare that Big Ben was in the captain spot and won last night. Dak's a guy who on the ground can get you there if he has a game like this, where he goes for 82 on the ground and has a game like that. I don't think that's going to be that viable this week. I don't want him in my captain spot. I don't really want Wentz in my captain spot, especially because of the price at Wentz's spot at $19.20 or $19.2. I think that might be one of the most expensive we've seen. Zeke was pretty expensive the other night. Zeke against a tough run defense. Zeke breaks dead last at PFF in elusive rating. That's terrible. Like, that's literally like breaking tackles and getting extra yardage, being elusive. He's dead last in that, and I think against a good front, I don't want to play with that. I think Ertz is a decent play, but I keep coming back to the well. I think Amari Cooper's matchup's incredible this week. I think he likes the primetime games. He got in the end zone. They peppered him with 4 targets in the red zone in his last game out of his 8. When they get down there, they basically want to say, hey, we just gave a first rounder for this guy. We got to make it look good. Also, he's a stud, so they want to throw it to him, but I think that's part of it as well. I don't hate Dak here. You can go and you can get Beasley for cheap. I want to play Ertz in this situation, but what if we came off of Ertz and we went for a little bit of a savings with Jeffrey, and then we just said, you know what, I think Aguilar is going to be the guy instead of Golden Tate this week. And you can get up here, and you barely miss out on Golden Tate. See, that pricing is so tight. They have it down pretty well. Let's just go up for Ertz. This would be more of like a safer lineup, I guess you can say. You go up for Ertz, you can get down here for Aguilar, and then, you have $5,500. Once again, you make that decision here. You want to leave money on the table and go with Adams. That's another way that you can leave money on the table and have Adams in your lineup. And maybe not, this might be a little bit of a better lineup, because look, you can come up here, $7,900. You get yourself Golden Tate now. I can see this being more of a chalky lineup. A lot of people saw Adams got 61 yards on 9 carries. He did really well. So this is kind of a safer lineup. Cooper should do well. Beasley should get at least 4 or 5 targets if they're passing. That's the way you attack the Eagles' defense. If that's the case, I want their pass catcher. If I want my captain to be a wide receiver, I would like that pass catcher as well. It's just positive correlation. And you basically get the top target on the Eagles, possibly a top 2-3 target on the Eagles as well in Golden Tate. Maybe he wants to show off on prime time. They get him the ball a lot. They've had a bye to work with it a little bit. And then Josh Adams, you don't have to leave money on the table. So I think since there's no money left on the table, this might be a common play here. But I don't hate it, right? And if you want to leave money on the table, go Aguilar, go kicker. You can leave a ton of money on the table. That's just a way to differentiate your lineup to try and take home the prize if that's what you want to go, high risk, high reward. If not, throw Golden Tate in there. This will probably be a lineup that's owned by a lot of people. But if you hit, I don't think a ton of people have Adams, maybe at like a 10% clip. So if this lineup does hit, maybe then you split with only like 200 people, right? So I think this is all pretty well is how I'll be approaching this. Is I like Amari Cooper, I like Dak. I like the passing game, which is like a chalk field, right? Because the Eagles have been so bad. I like the passing game a lot by Dallas, which could be a trap. So I'll kind of try and build some contrarian lineups going the other way, going attacking them on the run with the Eagles passing game. Just things that not a lot of people will be thinking. But that's it for the Sunday night slate, guys. I mean, quicker video than most just because pretty straightforward the way that I want to attack this. I think there's a lot of players who could be of impact, a lot of cheaper-ish plays, but nobody like we saw Samuel last night. But again, who knows? Maybe one of those Dallas tight ends catches a touchdown or two and it just breaks everybody's slate and makes me burn even more money that I really should stop playing so many tournament lineups on these nights and just go with one and just enjoy that one lineup because these 10 aren't even going to work out. But one day I'll hit something on these tournaments again. I'll hit like a first place and that'll pay me for the rest of the year, for these tournaments at least. But right now, guys, I'd appreciate if you could hit that like button. I mean, it means a ton to me. And just to explain, if you hit the like button, we just move up a little bit on the rankings when people look up Draftkings or like their Sunday night game or whatever it might be, and they see us more, they see more videos of mine, and lets more people just see the brand basically. So I appreciate that, if I could just be transparent about that. And then if you could hit subscribe, I greatly appreciate it. If you're at this point and you haven't subscribed, really appreciate you subscribing, getting us to that 500 goal. And if you comment below who you think is going to score the most on Sunday night, you can get into an entry for a Millie Maker, free entry, $20 entry. If it's a $10 entry for the Millie Maker, whatever week you want to use it, then you can use 2 obviously. But I appreciate it right now. My name's Sal. Be good. Good luck, everybody. If you're doing NBA, I'm going to try and get more into that. But good luck, everybody. Good luck this weekend. Peace.